Do you know what's important to me? It's important to me that generations from now, my kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, if I'm lucky enough, will get to live in a world that isn't trying to tear them apart every single day. And I mean that on a lot of different levels. I want to live in a world where, and I want a world for people where every year we don't anticipate forests burning and people and animals and everything getting displaced and the air becoming so aggressive and unbreathable that we can't go outside. Where ice caps melt and sea levels rise, and then one day we just don't have a planet anymore. I want to live in a world where we don't have to worry about that. And that's what I want generations after me to inherit. I want to live in a world where a deadly virus can ravage the world and we buckle down and we work together to take care of it, where our leaders don't downplay the severity of it, and where 200,000+ people don't die, a lot of them needlessly. I want to live in a world where it does not matter who you love, it does not matter what your identity is, it does not matter anything, that you have the ability to do what makes you happy. Of course, as long as it doesn't infringe on other people's happiness. Of course, always. But as long as it makes you happy, I want to live in a world where you're not persecuted for that, where you can be gay, where you can be a lesbian, where you can be transgender. It doesn't matter. Where you can live in your own truth and love who you want and be who you are. And you don't have to worry about that reflecting negatively on you for some reason. I want to live in a world where just because you are the way you are means that you don't immediately think maybe I shouldn't be here. I want to live in a world where the pressure of that is non-existent. I want to live in a world where me and people that look like me can feel safe around a public service that is meant to protect us. I want to live in a world where it is not okay for somebody to be murdered in the streets and where justice is served quickly and efficiently and properly. I want to live in a world where Black lives matter, so that when somebody says all lives matter, it's actually the truth. I want to live in a world where various public services are used the way that they're meant to be used. And they all work in harmony together to create a country, a community where crime and all other types of things are down because we're utilizing our resources properly. This is the world that I want to live in. You know what the sad part is that it's not hard. It's not a difficult world to live in. That is a place that we can get to. We just don't seem to want to. You know what's important to me is that you vote. I have a privilege of living in a state where voting is incredibly easy, right? You get a ballot in the mail, you fill it out, and then you either put it in a mailbox or you drop it at a ballot box somewhere nearby. And there's a bunch of them you can go to that are close. It's so easy. It's convenient. You do it at your own pace, and you're good to go. But the reality is that voting isn't as easy in other places in our country. And if you live in a place where it's not as easy, it's that much more important to fight for your ability to do it. Because I'm going to be honest with you, we don't have the best options this go around. We really don't. I absolutely, obviously, unequivocally denounce, and that's denounce probably isn't even a strong enough word for how I feel about this, but denounce Donald Trump for another 4 years. You've seen what's happened. You've seen how he's mismanaged our pandemic response. You see how he has refused to denounce white supremacy and white supremacist groups, telling them to just stand by. You've seen how he's posturing on whether or not he'll leave the White House if the election doesn't go his way. You've seen him tear gas protesters for a photo op outside of a church that denounced him entirely. You've seen all of these things over the last 4 years, and I just struggle with the notion that somebody who's seen all of this and has a rational thought process in their brain can look and say, yeah, I want him for another 4 years. I'm not the biggest fan of Joe Biden. I'm also not the biggest fan of Kamala Harris. But they are our best hope right now. They really are. It is taking a bus to your closest stop and then hopping on the next one. It's life or death for a lot of people this coming election, legitimately. When you're faced with Donald Trump, who wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act, or if you're trying to scare right-wing conservatives, the Obamacare. It's very scary because we don't like Obama, do we? But it's the Affordable Care Act. He's trying to repeal it, but he doesn't have any plans for what he's going to replace it with, and so it's going to leave thousands of Americans without health care, and it's going to be a life or death thing for a lot of people. A lot of people don't realize that. Meanwhile, Biden is at least trying to come up with plans to not only keep the Affordable Care Act as an option, but allow for other options for people to buy into as well, to expand it and make it better for people. So we've got them, promising and actively trying to fight systemic racism in this country, at least as best as they can. At least they're pledging to do stuff that we need. You know what I mean? We're not getting any of this with Donald Trump. It's going to just be divide even more than it ever has been if he gets another 4 years in office. And it's dangerous because despite everything, it's still so realistic of a situation. Like, it's a situation that could still happen. And that's scary to me, personally. It should be scary to a lot of people, including you if you're watching this. And the unfortunate nature of our country is that we are a two-party first past the post system, and we rely on an electoral college to grant votes that don't even necessarily have to go with the will of the people, which is also insane to me. Like, that an electoral college can give votes to a candidate that the public didn't choose. Seems weird to me, but whatever. We have a lot of flawed problems with our system. So many. And the big problem that comes with that is that, it is a system that inherently tries to squash down third parties and parties that try and oppose the big giants because of all the money that's being funneled into the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And it's a power struggle every 4 years. And that's problematic and wrong. And any other election year, I would be absolutely fighting for the idea that you should be able to vote for a third party and feel confident in doing that. But this is not the year for that. If it were a normal Democrat and a normal Republican, then fine, you do it is your vote, and your vote matters and it counts, and you should feel comfortable and confident doing what you want to do. But we have there's such a dangerous person in office and up for re-election right now that it's just not the time to be fighting for the third party at the moment. And I hate to say that. I really do hate to say that, because I have a lot of people in my life that I love that are very strongly fighting for third party candidates, and I respect that a lot, and I think that they should be able to. I understand that Joe Biden is not the greatest option in the world. He's had a lot of historically bad shit that he's done in the past, but he is the only candidate of the primary two parties that has at least shown some ability to evolve and change. And even in the run-up for this, he said some really dumb shit, right? But it's still nowhere close to, I can't fathom looking at Joe Biden and thinking that he is any worse or that he is as bad as Donald Trump. I cannot fathom that. And I hate to harp on the presidential election so much, because what you also need to realize if you decide I don't want to vote is that there are so many other things that matter in this election that you need to vote on. Because as important as the office of president is, there are Congress seats up for election, governors and judges and referendums and laws and addendums and things that you, in your local, for your state, federally, that you need to look at and you need to also take a stand on. Because whether you're disillusioned with the office of president or not, there's still more that needs to be done. Because as much as we like to think that change can happen from the top down, it really needs to be from the bottom up. We need to uproot problems and replant solutions from the ground up, and that's how it works. So we're not just, the big focus is on the presidential election, but nobody talks about the other things that are happening on your ballot when you go to vote. You need to do that too. It's so important. I get it. It's hard. It's exhausting. Politics, especially right now, it's the most exhausting politics I've ever been. But it's more important now than ever, because of it being so exhausting, to use that privilege. Because if you don't, and this is not hyperbole, this is not scaremongering or anything like that. It's true. If your privilege, because we talk about it being a right to vote, it is not a right to vote. It is a privilege that we get, that we have fought for. Because if you go back in time and you think about it, rich white men were the ones who were voting in the formation of our country. We had to fight for women to vote. We had to fight for people of color to vote. We had to fight for our ability to do it. It is not a right. It is a privilege. We get to. And if you don't do it, the more you don't, the more you get disillusioned, the more you fight it, the more you run away from it. The further and further away that privilege gets. As people decide that it's not worth it, that it doesn't matter, it goes away. It just goes away, because then we get somebody like Donald Trump, who could very well do medieval things if he has another 4 years in office, bolstered by all of the stuff that's happened over these last 4 years. Who knows? It's scary to think about, but it is what it is. You have to use that privilege. You have to use it often as you can, and you have to use your voice to fight for these things. I voted yesterday, dropped my ballot off in the box, and I felt proud to do it. And it's not just here. I've lived in places where it has been historically kind of difficult to vote, and I've waited in lines, and I've done my duty because I know how important it is. I was proud to be able to vote in my first election after I turned 18. I was very proud to do it. And you should be too. You don't have to completely like Joe Biden, but it is important to recognize that right now, with the way that our country is and where we want to get to, that he is what we're going to have to deal with, what we're going to have to put in there to, at the very least, start affecting some positive change. And if you are any kind of rational person, if you dislike Donald Trump, like if you look at Donald Trump and you are actively, and you have any kind of negative feeling looking at him and anything he does, then there's not another option, at least for this election. Again, I'm stressing that it's important. People are talking about like, oh, well, if the third party's never going to get anywhere if we don't vote for the third party, which is fair. It's 100% fair. And it's something that we can deal with next time. But right now, we have a dangerous man in office with a realistic chance of getting another 4 years in office and driving our country even further into the ground than he already has. And this time is not the time to play around. It is not. We have to fight, and we have to do it now, and you have to vote. You have to vote. That's all there is to it. I'm tired of watching people die. I'm tired of people watching people be persecuted. I'm tired of mismanagement. I'm tired of watching our country burn literally and figuratively. I'm tired of it. And if you're tired of it too, start something now and keep fighting. Because if you vote and Donald Trump is not in office anymore, that's cool, but keep going, right? That's when you can fight for your third parties. That's when you can fight for accountability and holding our people that are supposed to represent us, that we're in charge of, where they're supposed to represent us. That's when you can begin fighting even more. But for me, this is a one issue election. And that issue is Donald Trump, and that issue is getting him out of office. And I will do whatever it takes to do that. And if you have believed anything that I've ever said, if you agree with me that Donald Trump is not what this country needs, which I would hope would be everybody watching this video that watches this channel, then there's really not another option. We've just got to do it. Just got to do the thing. That's all I can ask. Just go out there, do what you need to do, get it over with as early as possible. I don't know what a lot of states, their deadline has passed for registering. Go to vote.org to check your registration. I know Washington's drop dead date for registering to vote is the 26th of October, which is coming up fast, so you got to do it. And I'll put a list of other places, registration deadlines in the description of the video. But get registered because it is so easy. It is incredibly easy to register. And then go vote. That's it. That's all I have to say. If you want a world like I want, go vote for Joe Biden. That's it. Hope you think about it.